What's going on, Master Duel fans? James here again. Theme Chronicle 2025 has been officially finished with reaching max goal, and thanks to the viewer polls over at my YouTube page, where 50% of you guys from the subscribers have chose Charmers in terms of the winning archetype choice for the Theme Chronicle event. And I said to myself, you know what? Since the inception of Master Duel throughout the 3 years, this was the first deck that I started with. And I said to myself, let's see how far I can go with Charmers when the game very first came out. Ended up in Platinum way back when, and this was like literally before Diamond or Master were a thing. And then 2 to 3 years later, we're back at it with some of the sauciest techs, none whatsoever. Most representative of loner decks would be Lightsworn, aka 50 games against Lightsworn. And then second most representative loner decks would be Rika, over 25 games against them. And all I can say is tough, but at the same time, any simplified game state in a offensive maneuver, you should be in a pretty good position. Deck profile for you guys. Asa, Area, Hita, Win, Dark, Lina, 6 familiar possessed names, nothing more, nothing less. And then the 4 animals, Gigabyte, Nefarious Archfiend, Inari Fire. These 3 are one-ofs, and then 3 Ranryu. The reason why 3 Ranryu, to be specific, despite the fact that you can only control 1, is because the destruction effects of Ranryu as well as Gigabyte, none of those guys' destruction effects are hard once per turns. So that way, if you don't have any offensive setup going, you could just try to stall out until you get yourself a very good card. And then Awakening of the Possessed, Nefarious Archfiend, the extender by having a spellcaster as well as level 4 or lower earth monster that is face up for this to happen. When summoned this way, this lets you does not target reborn level 4 or lower from your graveyard, but effects are negated. And then when it gets sent to the graveyard, this lets you search any spell trap that has the possessed in the name or spiritual earth art, which I don't play. But realistically, it's the possessed spell trap search. And then the Magistus, Zoroa, Crowley, and Reliona, just one of each because hard once per turns. Zoroa is your starter, Crowley is your extender, and then Reliona, this can recover your level 4 or lower spellcaster from the banished pile, send 1 back to the graveyard, or return 1 back to the graveyard. And then both Reliona and Crowley, these let you have your extra deck type Magistus equipped to from the graveyard that's not a level 4. So basically, if you get the setup going with the Zoroa Synchro, you should be in a pretty good spot. And then once again, if your opponent doesn't stop you from going ballistic combos with the Zoroa, you're in a really good spot. We'll do traps first. And I'm gonna get to the secret spice. 3 imperms, 2 possessed partnerships, 1 solemn strike, and 1 unpossessed. Spell lineup. Raigeki, Harpy's Feather Duster. Mind Control. Magician's right hand, Magician's left hand. These hands are basically meant for you to stop a spell/trap effect activations as long as you control a spellcaster. Awakening of the Possessed, just one, because specifically the Awakening spell and the Unpossessed trap, you need one because the Partnership's trap, these traps let you place the spell and the trap back from the grave back to the field face up, which is absolutely insane. 2 Book of Eclipse, absolutely bananas against Rika's if you know how to play it properly, specifically the Rika loner decks, because if you already knew for the fact that once you see Princess from the hand or graveyard in terms of the knowledge checks, Book of Eclipse to turn off the face-up Rika's in terms of Princess, just to make sure you're able to break the board, basically. 2 Forbidden Chalice, 2 Cosmic Cyclone, Call by the Grave. This card comes up 1 time so many in a Lightsworn Loner matchup, calling by the E-Turtles to make sure you can still get your battle phase going. And then Blizzard, this card comes up clutch to some degree in terms of board-breaking spells in general. That's not Super Poly. Or Droplet if they send a spell. And then 2 Spirit Charmers. Now, to talk about the extra 2 cards to make it a 41 card deck, if you guys notice, that is a total count of 39 of the cards listed. So I figured the Lightsworn Loner decks are my most representative matchups, and literally the majority of the Lightsworn Loner decks are super thirsty to face against me, and it's basically a back and forth battle. So I figured, why not the addition of the 2 extra cards to deal with light decks in general, specifically Lightsworn. And most Lightsworn decks in general, they hardcore refuse to play Seen This card. Ally of Justice, Quarantine. Especially the fact that if I can get a knowledge check of having Quarantine face up on the field, this makes it so that I can literally special summon any of these 4 FP monsters, being Asa, Area, Hita, and or Wind, and it's just to remove that normal summonable Lightsworn via trap while you have the Quarantine up. Zoroa, same thing, because he's a fire spellcaster, 1500 defense specifically, and this also helps you grant the destruction like no tomorrow. So basically, if you summon out any of these 5, being the FP girls in Zoroa, while you have Quarantine, just to blow up their normal summon, if they don't stop Quarantine the moment he's face up versus Lightsworns, they die on the spot, because the context is all from Quarantine is no one specials lights, and it applies to both players. Hence why Lightsworn Loner decks are super thirsty in terms of most representative Loner decks. And then extra deck, was the Magistus Spell Spirit. This was made 1 time in terms of actual fusion summon, because in theory, if you guys wondered how am I really made this card, is because Mind Control their light or dark dragons, the new support card that says you can perform a fusion summon, activate their effect to perform a fusion summon, and according to the fusion materials, most cases, any of the Magistas and any of the spellcasters. And it makes it so that you're able to, in theory, perform a fusion summon, and then Snatch Stealing has literally never come up, but at the same time, the idea is 1,000 stat boost, which is really, really strong to a certain degree. Zoroa Synchro, this is the MVP. This comes up all the time. Nothing more, nothing less out of the Magistas engine. Ninaruru, the Scrap Dragon effect of spell traps, one on each side, is super clutched, but the actual monster effects, none of it ever comes up. But at the same time, it's where if you happen to, in a simplified game state, is where if you already have the partnerships to recover your FP monsters and or Zoroa, you're in a pretty good state. Same thing with the 2 attacks, it does not come up. And then Artemis, nothing more, nothing less out of her. Lightning Chidori, Downer Magician, Drill Driver Vespinato. Chidori is clutch because, first off, Win, Ranryu, and Crowley being a attribute changer of wins, and it makes it so that rather than destroying this stuff, you're actually returning cards to the deck, so that way they get no bonus effects off of it. And then Downer, Drill Driver, for the sake of pierce battle damage, in case if we come across battle immunity. IP Masquerina, Mech Knight Crusadia Avermax. Avermax stole 80% of the games, nothing more, nothing less. And then afterwards, the 6 Charmerlinks. Hita, Win, Osa, Area, Lina, and Dark. This has been James Polk on the Theme Chronicle deck profile for you guys. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And if you haven't already, smash the notification bell to keep yourself constantly updated. And we will catch you guys in a near future event.